We got a lot to do in a little bit of time. I'm excited about being here. I'm excited. Got back yesterday from San Francisco, California, and as you were told by your pastor, I've been blessed. This last year has been an amazing year for me. Many of you knew me from how many listen to me on WHUR every morning? If you don't listen, get up early right before Steve Harvey, listen, and then go back to bed. Anyway, but you also might have seen me on CBS radio, CBS television here in Washington for a number of years. Also on PBS. Some of you might know about the fact I've written some books that have been pretty popular. Setback is a setup for a comeback, An Attitude of Excellence, Chicken Soup for the Soul. It only takes a minute to change your life. So, but many people don't know is that I talk about transformation. And I work with major corporations around the world, helping them to transform their thinking and transform their futures. And most people know me for a little company I work with called Ford Motors. Anybody heard of that little teeny-weeny company? In fact, I always like to say, how many of you at some point in your family's history had a Ford in your family? Just about everybody in America, because one time Ford was the #1 automaker in the world. No one was even close. But over the years, Ford took their eye off of service. And their market share started to go down. And one day in 2005, Ford woke up with 15% market share. Toyota had surpassed them, and they were on their way to bankruptcy. For the first time ever, they brought in a new CEO whose last name was not Ford. Alan Mulally, brilliant man who came from Boeing. He said, we got to change the thinking of our workers, we got to change our service culture, or we're going to be out of business. I'm very grateful they gave me a call. And they said, we want you to help us to transform this company. And I worked with Ford. I worked with Ford starting in 2006. I worked with Ford in 2007. I worked with Ford in 2008. As you might remember, in 2009, Ford was the only one of the big three automakers to be able to reject a government bailout. And they went from losing $1 million a month to making $1 billion a month. Let me ask you a question. Did the economy go up between 2006 and 2009? No. What changed? Thinking. Scripture says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. When you change your thinking, you'll change your future, you'll change your organizations. And so that's what I talk about, that's what I do. And out of that came a book called An Attitude of Excellence. Attitude of Excellence is a book that talks about two things that I shared with the folks in Ford that had a profound impact on their results. First is attitude, and then is excellence. First is mindset, then is skill set. Now, both of them are critically important. You got to have both. If you're going to grow your organization, you got to have mindset and skill set. But one must precede the other. People have said for years, I was looking for years to find the secrets for success. I'd go to seminars trying to find a secret success. And I'm looking for that one key to unlock success until I learned that success is not a single key, it's a combination lock. You got to know the combination. And not only do you need to know the digits, but you need to know them in the right sequence. And if you get them out of sequence, it won't work. It always starts, the first digit always starts with mindset. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then skill set, pursue excellence, be diligent in it. And so we see it most profoundly in professional athletics. On draft day every year, there are millionaires made, young millionaires, who are given millions and millions of dollars. Unfortunately, 5 years after retirement, over 70% of professional athletes are broke because they worked on a skill set before they worked on a mindset. You got to start with mindset. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So that's why Attitude of Excellence came out. Now, most people know me for speaking for major corporations around the world. Many people now know me because last January, my XM show hit #1 in America. I got the #1 motivational show in America. Now, let me be transparent. I'm a transparent guy. I'm going to tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth here, okay? It hit #1, but let me tell you how that happened. For 9 seasons, I was #2, behind a lady named Oprah Winfrey. And I wasn't even close. I couldn't see her dust, okay? She was way out in front of me. But thanks be to God, The end of 2014, Oprah decided to focus on Oprah television, so she shut down Oprah radio, so IE is now #1. As a result of the radio show becoming #1 in America, that was January 2015. In February of 2015, I got a call from the Getting Motivated tour. For 20 years, Zig Ziglar and General Colin Powell were the key speakers for the Getting Motivated tour around America. Big arenas. They come to the Verizon Center. They come to the Richmond Coliseum. And Zig passed away. And they said, we're looking for a man who's a great motivator who also is like Zig, a man of God, a man of faith. And they looked around the country, and thank God my name kept coming up. And then I had a #1 radio show. They said, you the guy. And I said, thank you very much. So for last year, we did 35 cities. This year, we expected to do 50 cities. We were in San Francisco earlier this week. We were in Tampa last week. And so I thank God for the opportunity to be able to share my message. So most people know me for that. But let me tell you what most people don't know, is that I have a doctorate in ministry. Earned. It kicked my behind. So I tell you, it earned. Because let me tell you, it's a humbling thing for a 50-plus-year-old man to go back to school. You hear me? First paper I wrote for my doctorate, I gave it to the professor. I write books. I can write a paper. Gave the paper to my professor. I said, this is a good paper. I wrote it yesterday. It's good. He said, I'm going to read it. I'll see you next week. I came in next week. He said, let me tell you something. You can write some books. That it only takes a minute to change your life, awesome. Setbacks set up for a comeback, amazing. Turn setbacks into greenbacks, unbelievable. Attitude of excellence, we love it. Then he handed me my paper, had a big fat F on it. He said, because you got an F because you wrote about what you already know. You're not in school for what you already know. You're in school to learn new stuff. So for that year, I had to shut down my business after that experience and stop speaking for a year and sit in the library at American University every night with 18-year-olds. It's humbling. But on May the 18th, 2013, I graduated from the California Graduate School of Theology with a doctorate of ministry, and not only did I graduate that day, I gave the commencement address at my own graduation. And let me tell y'all something, I gave myself a good talking to. All right, anyway. So that's what people, and then I talk about developing an attitude of excellence with major corporations, with major churches. I go around the corporation, but I do the churches as a way of just being a blessing to pastors and the church. Because here's what happened. I'm a member of First Baptist Church at Glen Arden. And I love my pastor, and we're good friends. Well, one day I went to the bookstore. Line was long, people wanting stuff. But the lady who was working was not, one, quick. She didn't have good customer service, and she was not that pleasant. So people kept falling out the line. And by the time you knew it, there might have been 20 people started in the line, there was only 4 or 5 people. So I went to Pastor Jenkins and said, you losing money. He said, what will you say? I said, you losing money. He said, okay, fix it. So I did a training for the bookstore, for all the people who work in the bookstore about customer service, how to give world-class service. His numbers went up. They saw a market increase in the bookstore sales. He called me in one day about a couple of months later. He said, I need you to do whatever you did for the bookstore for everybody in our church. Everybody who touches people, I want them to go through your training. Greeters, ushers, parking ministry. Everybody got to go through that customer service training. Teach them what you teach Nordstrom's. Teach them what you teach Walmart. Teach them what you teach all the major corporations that you work for. I want exactly, and so we started doing, that's when we were in the little church. As you might know now, we got a pretty big church. It's got 4,000 seats, and it's packed 4 times a Sunday. And the reason is because people started changing their attitude of excellence. It will grow your organization when you change the thinking of the people. Wow, not good customer service. Not real good customer service. Wow. Here, look at wow. Here, I want y'all to see this. Wow. W-O-W. You got to wow the customer. Your congregants are customers. People who are visiting are customers. You got to wow the customers with your customer service. I'll give you my story about how I'm at First Baptist now. I've been at First Baptist for 12 years, and I've been a big tither, and I'm a big giver. Pastor Jenkins said I brought a lot of people, because not just the customer service training, but because of my radio show. That's for #1 in the city and #1 in the country. And when people come to D.C., they come because I'm a member there. Now, I went to another church before I found First Baptist. I had been at a church when my children were little, at a church for many years, but then it was time to leave. And we started looking for churches. And we wanted a church that would teach us as well as to inspire us. So every weekend we go to church. We went to one of the big churches in Maryland, well known. If I told you the name, everybody would know their name. One of the great preachers. But they hadn't been taught customer service. My wife and I park in the parking lot. We're walking to the church. It has a circular driveway. And I start walking across the driveway toward the church. And the guy who's directing the traffic, hey! You know you can't walk there. Get back up on that. Get up on there. You can't walk there. Going around all the way. Just going around. Okay. And I went on to the service. And the preacher preached, and I didn't hear a word he said. Because I couldn't get past that experience. And I didn't join there. And a few weeks later, actually, I met a guy from First Baptist at the gym. He had a First Baptist shirt on. He came up to me, Mr. Jolley, I read your books. I said, oh, nice to meet you. Which church? I see First Baptist. Where is the church? I've heard about John Jenkins, but I don't even know where the church is. I went that Sunday, and Pastor Jenkins saw me in the audience, asked me to come up and say a few words, and then he said, I need you to come back and speak for our men's group. I said, I'll come. He called me the next day. He was diligent. He called me the next day and said, I want to put it on the calendar. And I said, great. Now, he was teaching a program called the Power of Prayer. That Sunday we were there was the part 1. So the next Sunday, every Sunday we'd go to a different church. The next Sunday, my wife said, where are we going today? I said, we're going back to that First Baptist because I want part 2. Got in that church, sat in there, and when he got to the call for Christ and joined the church, the Spirit said, now, right now. And I know the voice of the Lord when he speaks to you. And I said, this is it. And we've been a member for the last 12 years, and we are grateful for that. But think if I had joined the other church, what I could have poured into them. And I say that to say, you got to have customer service as a critical, and everybody has to be important. Everybody, the chain is only as strong as the weakest link. So you got to wow the customer. You got to wow.